The hardest thing in the life of the life of many things are gatekeepers. There are people that could probably be a doctor without going through all the training of traditional schooling and be online and self-teach themselves and be an incredible doctor, better than a lot of doctors. I totally believe that. My brother's one of them. I'm not saying he can be a surgeon, but the understanding of the human body, because he's obsessive and he's highly, highly intelligent, researched individual. So, and he doesn't trust the medical system. So those three things right there is a Joker origin story. You know what I mean? So if you look at the Joker of why he's so effective, I know he's just a character and a thing, but what he represents as a metaphor is a fascinating thing. It's like spurned from society with the amount of anger and tenacity, you will become an amazing human being, for good or bad. So the problem is, I just said with this stuff, is that I hate gatekeepers, but I love them because, you know, if anyone could have been in Scream, maybe it wouldn't have been as successful. But the great thing about Scream is it has a lot of new faces and discoveries in it that allowed us to be in it. But to get my part was I got that part and lost it 5 times. Gatekeepers. And if it wasn't for Wes Craven, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be at Pizza Hut. And so, you know, there's an amount of dancing and talent and timing and gatekeepers and blessing, and literally I got a break. I got a break from Wes Craven. You know, the studio kind of didn't want me. I don't know if it's the dude in jail or his brother. They did not. There was a lot of back and forth. Harvey, what can I offer Harvey? I have no tits for him to suck. You know, so, but, you know, I made Wes laugh, and he liked me. And so I made Lisa laugh. I made Marianne and Kathy laugh. I was lucky. You know, I got in the room, and then the rest is history. But they weren't even crazy gatekeepers. They were open to finding a new talent. It was just a little horror movie, you know. Who knew it was going to be what it is, right? And that's where gatekeeping is done correctly, because there is a thing, it is a new thing, and then you have to get through the gates. So there's a taste making there, and all the people involved have gone on to make amazing pieces of art and won awards and all this stuff. Legit awards, you know, like awards that they, even if you don't believe in the ceremonies and all this stuff, they are award-winning pieces of art. And by this woman doing this whole thing, which I said about this, and literally cosplaying at the Oscars as an Oscar attendee, which is what she does. She's living a life of pretend. Well, she's selling that life to all these other people that want to do that or believe they can do it, but she hasn't really done it. It's the ultimate facade. It's worse when you go. It's worse than the Psycho House. When you go to Universal and you see the Psycho House and it looks incredible, and then if you're ever to go up behind it, it's literally a facade. It's a fucking 3 walls and this, and it looks incredible. And you go behind it and there's nothing there. There's poles and beams holding it up. This is worse than that. At least that's a facade of one of the greatest pieces of art of all time. Psycho. So this all goes back to, and I'm like, but the problem is with our society is that the gatekeepers are desperate. They know they're losing grip, and so they're letting everybody in. I don't blame that girl, because her delusion is her delusion. I blame society for enabling that delusion, and I blame the Oscars. They can't fucking look at everyone and say all that. They can't, and they want the brand to grow, and it's losing market share and all this stuff. But that's a problem, and that's why everything is watered down, because we're letting fucking... The issue is, if you let talented people in and they do stuff, that is where gatekeepers are bad. You know, like, if you block legitimate talent, that's where the gatekeepers are very harsh. Like, every year there's the blacklist of scripts that never get made, and everyone's like, these are the best scripts, but then they couldn't get made because they don't know how to market them, or they didn't know where they're going to be and all this stuff, but they're amazing pieces of art. That's just, they can't figure out the economics or whatever, personal gain, what all this shit. But like, where, you know, when someone breaks through, let's just say like the Duplass brothers, who I don't even know, but I'm a huge fan of not just their work, but of their creativity and their tenacity of, I believe, you know, besides being he's on the morning show now, and, you know, they've had multiple HBO shows, and and they were on other television shows, I believe. I don't know. I don't want to quote the things wrong. But I believe they own a cool store in Silver Lake called Vidiots. I want to say it's Vidiots, or maybe not. But where they have like their own like cinema and VHS outlet. So it's like creative types doing creative things for the creative community. And now I believe Mark Duplessis made a whole series and funded it himself and is trying to sell it, or may have sold it to Netflix. Like, that's a risky, humongously risky thing to do. But that is a creative entity that will never be stopped, him and his brother, and they'll just keep doing it, whatever the outlets will be, and they make what they want to make for themselves and what they want to see. And that is where the gatekeepers need to step aside and go, okay, let's let these people go. Where the gatekeepers need to step up is when everyone is at the Oscars and taking pictures like they just won for not best sound, which is very hard to do. They won for best supporting actress. And they put on a Dora the Explorer cosplay. You know what I'm saying? So that, there's an equivalent to that of, I hate to do this, but there was a time where comedy clubs didn't want you to film, and then they realized the branding is the key. And then there was a time where they let everyone film, but there was a time where you could only take a picture at a lot of clubs on front of their sign on stage because they didn't want the brand diluted if you weren't really ready as a comedian. But I think that's all gone out the window, and I think people just like market shares are coming in, bottom lines get tightened, so they kind of let everyone do that. So the issue is, if you see some clips and there's a club that's really known and the person is not having the best clip, but in their mind they think it's brilliant, and then the club's mind they're like, this ain't ready. The club is like, well, what kind of comedy is there? What am I watching? You know what I'm saying? And no one is the gatekeeper of comedy, of the art, or anything. But I will say I did see something the other day that I have to I don't know if I should say it. It's just that I saw this person on a flyer for a show, and in her bio it said comedian, and every one of her pics and videos was an ad for her OnlyFans. Now tell me if I'm crazy. I'm not trying to hate here. Okay, but stay with me here. If you have comedian in your bio, every clip or most of your bio or your page should be comedy related, right? Because that's what you're about. That's what you put your title as, so that's what you should show, correct? But if I'm in there and I'm seeing, cop and squat pics and, walking the dog with the dental floss between the ham hocks and different things, I'm going to think, where's the joke here? What's the punchline? Is this a new impression of a poopy pant? And I start making jokes in my head, and I started thinking about it. It's kind of fucking sexist towards me. Now stay with me on this. Because I cannot go on, as someone can do sex during the day and go on stage and do jokes and never ever have a thing on their page that's really comedic related. That's why, that's why you could say it is, maybe there's something funny there, but no guy, no red-blooded male that enjoys females is going to look at a girl in a bikini and go, she's hilarious. That's not the first thing that comes to their thing. It's just not their sensory system that we set up. It doesn't mean she cannot be hilarious, but there's got to be something funny there, because that's the thing. That just the way people are wired that are, men, I think. It doesn't mean you can't be. But what I'm saying is, if you have that in your bio and then you're in there with the fucking dental floss, you can go on stage and do jokes and nobody says nothing. This is the new world. Now, if I were to go on stage and I just put sex worker in my bio, no. If I go on stage as a comedian and I do something, I whip out my dong on stage, they would say I'm a criminal. Does that make sense? I can't bring sex work into comedy, but sex work can be in comedy. If your baseline is sex work, you can do comedy. But if your baseline is comedy, you can't be accepted in the sex worker because they would say you're a creep. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? So I just thought that was interesting. And it just goes back to everything what I'm saying is like people are using comedy to expand their brand. It's the easiest way to do it. Whatever you do, whether you're a chef, whether you are having sex for money, whether you are a pro athlete or a wrestler, you can use this as a way to find like-minded individuals and talk about the foibles of your life. And if you're good at it, it doesn't matter. You can build your own audience. You can sell way more tickets than me and all of that. And that's good. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just think it goes back to a little bit of like there's no rules. Does that make sense? So I would, the problem is it just waters it down of like what's really, I wish people, it's okay to have I'm not like this. Everyone should be able to do what they want to express themselves. But if you're doing this, you have to not take yourself that seriously. And that's when my critical eye comes in. If you take yourself this seriously, some of the greatest comedians that you love, I'm not going to name them. They take what they do seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously. And they will never put comedian in their bio. I don't even have what I do in my bio. I never would. I don't have actor, comedian. I just put not a chef because there was a big chef named Jimmy Kennedy. I'm being funny. I mean, if I have to put what I do in my bio, I'm not, I failed you. You should know me. But I get it if you're starting out. I get it. And it's a new way. I'm just trying to say that all of this stuff goes back to my argument with my buddy, which is that I can't really mad at him because it's just like literally the whole society's what have you done recently? What are you doing at this moment? How many followers you have? And it's just not important. And I'm learning that more and more. How? Through the cons. And I'm going to tell you how. The amount of people that come up to me at cons and just like obviously scream. I don't even notice it anymore, but it's basically Ghostface is McDonald's and I'm not Ghostface. But I'm part of the origin story of that and, an integral part, and I'm very fortunate. But like B-Rad, how he's penetrated the culture. Randy is penetrating the culture. Jamie, I'd love to hit this fucking ceiling with a fucking sledgehammer. The Jamie Kennedy experiment is somewhat, but not as much as it should have, in my opinion. Ghost Whisperer penetrated the culture. Tremors, low-key penetrating the culture. Son of the Mask has done this incredible U-turn where I have 23-year-olds coming up to me going, I love that movie when I was a kid. I understand the other movie everyone loves. I understand no one likes this movie, and there's a whole generation of kids that have grown up who like it. So it worked for what the studio and Larry ended up doing. It was really the studio that did it. Larry would have made it much more... It would have been a much more nuanced. There's a lot of slow moments in it, but they just went. So he tried to make it the best he could with all the effects and everything, and he did for that, and it became an ADD movie. But there's all these kids with ADD or whatever. They love it, and they love it, and I'm so like touched by it, and they've taken my scene and they put it on YouTube, and there's the mix on Spotify, and there's all of these homages to it. And then so it's what I'm trying to say is that's a movie that was maligned and destroyed 19 years ago, and now it's got new life, and Scream is never gonna go away, and Romeo and Juliet, the pink hair, like I'm seeing people with shirts and the meme and all of us on the beach, and it's like I've been fortunate to be a part of some amazing things, and maybe I've helped make those things cool. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Chinatown, the badge on your nose with Jack Nicholson, the bandage on his nose. Here's Johnny, the laughing meme of Leo and Wolf of Wall Street, him pointing, from Once Upon a Time. I mean, the picture of Brad Pitt and River Runs Through It, Denzel from Training Day. I'm talking about, there's so many to name. That's what I was raised on. That's what I believe. That's what I know. And it's all about I'm new to this because I'm older now, your legacy. What have you left that is great? And the people that are great will be fucking chill. And it's the people that aren't. They have imposter syndrome. And that's what a lot of our society has. Imposter syndrome. I'll end it on this. Marlon Brando, the greatest of the greats. The most beautiful. He's more beautiful than women. You can't not look at him. He was just beautiful. Look at the girls he's co-starred with in movies. You can't stop looking at Brando. Amazing, humongous on the history of film and on pop culture. And one time I read that in his book, and he says, I tried to do him. He said, acting's a bum's job. He said, acting is a bum's life. And I was so pissed. I was in my little fucking shitty little apartment, my little cube, my tuna can, and I'm eating my fucking stupid bag of rice, and I'm broken. He's like, it's a bum's life. He's like, you get paid to pretend, and you wait around, and you do some shit, and then you're a bum, and it's not real work. And I was so fucking mad at him. And then it took me a long time, and then I realized what he meant, and why he was so great, and why he was effortless is because he didn't care. And that's what they say. Don't care, and it will come to you. But as a whole, that whole entity of him knowing his place, he was just a beautiful man who was touched by God, who had the look and the feeling. He just had star quality since the day he was born, and he was special. And he looked at it and knew how fortunate he was, and he said, it's a bum's life. And by being that way, that's one of the reasons he's one of the greats, and he was a great thinker. I know he's had some personal problems and all that stuff, and I don't know enough about him, but, I'm looking at the artist first. I'm sorry. I don't know enough of his personal stuff. And that's what I think. Somebody that great who didn't take themselves that seriously at all shows you what true greatness is. And I heard Sammy Davis Jr. was like that. And what a talent. What a talent. So think about that. When you're in society and someone's taking themselves so seriously, go, is this Brando? Is this Sammy D? Is this Rita Hayworth? No, it's a bum on Southwest in 23B. And if you're watching this on a plane right now on Southwest and the guy in 23B, put that in his fucking face. Peace.